We are. I can see the live.
Awesome. All right. So are we live?
How about that? A little bit of lag.
So is that you or on my end?
That was on my end.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. I see.
How
I'm
is
doing it.
everybody? I have notifications over here on YouTube.
Great. And I've got them here on Facebook. And we are rolling.
Awesome. How is everybody? Hey, so sorry for the late start today and for all these notifications from people messaging right in the most inconvenient time. But that is okay. Hey, thank you so much for being here. We had a late start today. We are all over the place, but in a good way. We are broadcasting everywhere we possibly can. So awesome. How is everybody? Hey, so sorry for the late start today and for all these notifications from people messaging right in the most inconvenient time. Okay, that was me. As you can see, we are everywhere. So that's happening. All right. So let us know in the comment section down below. Joseph, you have us on Facebook, right? You have us monitoring there. I'm going to monitor us on YouTube. So welcome to the Agent Lead Source podcast. We are super excited to bring this to you. Joseph, how are you, my friend? And please, let's make this a tradition. Tell everybody what time it is in your neck of the woods.
Oh, that's a good question. Well, first off, I'm really good. The time is 10:30 p.m. Work never stops. I am, for those of you who are just joining, I'm located in Singapore. You can't see right now because of my big window back here, but there's a skyline, and over here where my hand is the famous Marina Bay Sands. You can Google that later, but yeah, things are great. How are you doing in your neck of the woods, Jaime?
I'm doing well. I'm learning a lot of these things along with Pat. So just as a recap, Pat is our producer. So Joseph and I started this this podcast, and we needed a producer. Pat has been with us since day one, but after today, it's probably going to be his last day because we have been going. We've been having to step in and clean up a lot of his stuff, but that's okay. That's okay. Overall, we are in a great position. We are blessed, and we are going. That's an achievement in and of itself. So today we're talking about brokerage secrets and becoming the standout agent. So we're going to be covering how to select the right brokerage for you. And we're not going to be I guess we'll kind of be biased, but we're going to give you as much objective information as we possibly can. We're not going to choose favorites or anything like that. We are just going to provide as much information that you need to be aware of either before you join your next brokerage, if you're already a real estate agent, or when you're selecting your new brokerage. So a lot of the people that are watching right now are new real estate agents. So it just, it's a very valuable, very important decision that you need to make. So Joseph and I got together and wanted to elaborate on that, because whether you do your online school, whether you do your real estate license online or in person, you're going to get calls from brokers, and you continue to get calls from brokers from everywhere. So you're going to be courted. So I don't know about you, Joseph, but for me, it was a bit overwhelming having, for one, all of that food delivered at real estate school, and all of these brokers making their sales pitch, and sometimes from the same brokerage, which I didn't necessarily know what the difference was, which we'll elaborate on. What was your experience like, Joseph?
Yeah, mine was a little bit different. Coming from the Austin market, obviously, Jaime, you and I we both work in the Texas market, right? Mine was a little bit different. I think for me, and of course I'll elaborate on this a little bit later. I knew that I'd be getting the emails and calls from these brokerages, because I think that's part of one of the ways the boards makes money is they send your information to all the brokerages, right, that are out there, and then you get all these calls. But I took a little bit different approach. I looked at numbers, like being a marketing and data guy. I took a look at the numbers to make sure I knew what I was looking at before I made a final decision. So yes, I got all the calls, and yes, I did all those things that everybody else gets and all the emails and stuff. But I took a step back and said, I'm not going to look at all that information. I'm not going to take any calls. I'm going to, before I even start, I'm going to look at the things that are most important to me, which we can, we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Awesome.
But yeah, I've got some ideas. I think that hopefully will help people out making a
No,
good
they
decision.
absolutely will. Because what you and I do, we speak with a lot of real estate agents. We speak and hear about different models. So I think that we have not necessarily a leg up, but a unique perspective, because we do get we get the good and we get the bad. So
Yes.
people will do share with us, hey, I can't do X, Y, and Z because X, Y, and Z brokerage prevents that, or I can't necessarily make that work because X, Y, Z does things this way. So we do have a unique perspective that we get to interact with hundreds of real estate agents every month. So that's why we really wanted to cover this topic. So jumping right into really the first step in selecting your real estate brokerage is being self-aware.
Yes.
Being self-aware of obviously yourself, being self-aware. If you're the independent type person, if you're somebody that can figure things out on their own, somebody that doesn't necessarily need all that much support, there's a certain type of brokerage that makes better sense for you, because you're going to have less friction. If you're the person that does things first and then asks for forgiveness later, then there's a type of brokerage that works better for you. So that is really the start of it, being self-aware of what of how you thrive and where you thrive in the environment that you're in, versus if you're somebody that requires a little bit more hand-holding, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you require a little bit more, you need to see it, you need to see it in action, you need to be coached through it, then there's a different type of brokerage for you, because there's two really distinct models that go with that. One that you're going to thrive in if you're an independent person, and if you're an independent person going over to this other model, then it's going to be a little bit frustrating, because you're going to be running into a lot of roadblocks, and you're not necessarily that's not necessarily where you're going to thrive. Does that make sense, Joseph?
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I think, Jaime, I think you hit the nail on the head there. So those of you who are watching and those of you who watch this later, what I want you to think about is, and what Jaime is saying is, think about who you are, what's important to you, and what type of person are you in regard to being able to understand, hey, I need somebody to hold my hand because I don't know anything that's going on in real estate. Or number two, hey, I have an aunt or uncle or friend that I could go to and they can tell me exactly what's going on with contracts and those things. So I don't need somebody to hold my hand. So you're going to have different brokerages, but you need to know who you are to be able to make that decision. And if you don't know who that person is, maybe we can give Jaime, maybe this is a good place to be able to give a set of questions to be able to ask, for people to internalize and write down and ask themselves that are getting ready to get their license, or maybe they're getting ready to jump brokerages, right? Because we have a lot of people that are getting ready to, usually at the around winter time when things quote unquote get slow, that's when we see most agents getting ready to make the move, right? So maybe we can give them a set of questions that they can ask, and I'll talk about my questions, and Jaime, I'll let you talk about your questions that you would ask yourself before you made a move.
Absolutely. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first. Yeah, I'll go first. So here's what I would ask. Here's the questions I would ask. Number one, do I know how to get leads? Right? If I know how to get leads, for me, at least whenever I was a real estate agent in Texas, what that allowed me to do was say, I don't really need that much help from anybody. Technically, I'm my own business already, because that's one of the things that you go to a team for, you go to a brokerage for, is to get leads, right? If I know how to do that, that gives me leverage to then, which I guess we'll talk more about this a little bit later, to discuss commission splits.
Yep.
So if I know how to do lead generation, which is the thing that most brokerages are pitching, then why do I need the brokerage? So my question to the brokerage is, what can you do for me besides lead generation? Because I can do that for myself, right? Great. So you need to know yourself. If you can't do those things, then maybe you need to go to a brokerage that is giving leads, right? The second question that I ask myself is, what type of person am I? Am I a type of person that only cares about transactions? Or am I the type of person that cares about building relationships through these transactions that will conspire over time, right? That will happen over time. And that allowed me to make a decision on narrowing down my brokerages. And then the final question I had to ask myself was, and you might want to ask yourself this is too, as a new real estate agent, or somebody that's getting ready to change brokerages is, how many deals on average does each agent do at the brokerage, right? Am I going to go to a brokerage where the agents do 1 to 2 deals a year? Or am I going to go to a brokerage where the agents do 1 to 2 deals a month, or 10 deals, or they average 24 deals per year? Like that is a very important question to ask yourself as you're choosing brokerages, because you want to be around success, because success breeds success. Failure breeds failure. Sometimes failure helps you learn, but do you want to go to a place where people have already been through the failure and they're succeeding already? So those are probably the top 3 questions that I would ask myself as I'm getting ready to make a decision on the brokerage. And then of course there are some other internal questions, like what type of people do you want to be around, those type of things, right? So those are the questions that I would ask.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Joseph, just so for the newer agents that are maybe haven't, or even the ones that are just thinking about becoming a real estate agent, or for the newer agents that are still in school, is that conversation had with the recruiter, with the broker at the first time? Where would you pose those types of questions?
Yeah, I would probably ask, depending, of course, it's going to depend on market, right? But for the offices that I went to, there were two people. There was the recruiter within the office, so like in-house recruiter,
Okay.
and then there was the broker, actual broker. If it's a big office, like the offices that I went to, I think one had over 50 agents, one had over 100 agents, right? The broker is not somebody you sit down with day one. That's just not how a business is run. So you ask those questions of the recruiter. And if the recruiter doesn't know those answers, that might be a red flag. And if they don't, that might be good for them to see you ask those questions, because you're imparting knowledge, which we'll get to later, about becoming the standout agent, knowing things that they don't even know to ask yet, right? So to answer your question in short, Jaime, if it's a recruiter, ask them the questions first.
Okay.
If it's an in-house recruiter, and then second, if you get a chance to sit down with the broker, ask them those questions about how many deals do you do each year, right? And how many deals does each agent do? And then what, if I do lead generation, will my split be different than somebody who doesn't do lead generation that needs help, right? So that's how I would structure that conversation.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Well, Joseph, for me, the questions that I would ask would be, what systems do you have in place right now?
Yeah.
So if the immediate answer is what, then that's a red flag. That's not might be a red flag. That's a red flag.
I've got some brokerages in mind that would say that.
So systems are super important, and it's something that we hear so often about these days. It's become a cliche, but it really is important. So I wish some people wouldn't bastardize that word, because the systems do help you out a lot. Not necessarily because they don't need to be the most complex, the most rigid, the most whatever. They just need to be repeatable. You need to have a system. Hey, this is what we do on Mondays. This is what we do on Tuesdays. We do on Wednesdays, which kind of leads into one of your questions, which I absolutely love, is, well, what's the average deal amount, or what's the average deals that your agents do? Because that's going to speak directly to your systems. So if somebody tells you, hey, I have this system here, we do all of this on Mondays, we do all this on Tuesdays, we do this from 8 to 10, blah, 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 and the average sell is less than the national average, and it's 3 per year, then we have an issue there. So we all know that there's going to be some extremely high producers, and there's going to be some that aren't. So that's why the failure rate is what it is. So the average kind of skews towards the bottom. But when it comes to the systems, it's super important. Well, what happens when we get into contract? Do you have a transaction coordinator that goes and takes over? How do we go about prospecting, which kind of goes back into your question about the lead generation source. So really that question is super important, because it's going to tell you a lot about how involved the brokerage and the broker is going to be in the success of you, and how uninvolved they're going to be. So if they say, hey, this is your own business, you run it how you want, well, that has its pros and cons. If you're new to the business and have no not trying to say this in a disparaging way, but if you have no concept of how to run a business, then you're being left there floundering. So yeah, you may have an extremely high, let's call it a commission split, or aren't being charged a lot when it comes to fees. Then the issue is going to become for you is, well, I'm going to keep a lot from a little. because you're not going to be able to do as much production because there's really no process in place that you can emulate unless you're able to create your own.
Yeah. Yeah. I think those are fantastic points, right? Like if you, I think that was actually the last point was a fantastic one in regard to, you can go to a brokerage that's 100%. There's no doubt they're out there, but don't get mad at the brokerage because you thought they were going to give you this fantastic training whenever they're going, I'm giving you all the money. What else do you want me to do for you? Right? Like there's a balance in life. And so those of you who are new agents and those of you who maybe are veteran agents thinking about moving, 100% brokerage is fine, but also know what you're getting, right? The quote unquote, get what you pay for, right? You're going to get nothing except maybe some systems, but you're going to have to learn those systems yourself. And you're going to have to make all the money yourself. Don't expect anybody to coach you on that stuff. Now, there will be some brokerages that are out there that will help you, but looking at these different splits, you've got to think about what you're going to get from that. And so, we can obviously dive deeper, Jaime, on, hey, here are some things to ask. What does the system look like? What is the system? Can I Google the system? What does the system typically cost? Right? Because there's some great systems out there that cost an arm and a leg that the brokerage is offering you. And if they're offering that, it's probably a good deal for the most part, but you have to think about those, again, we'll dive deeper into this stuff, but something for nothing is usually not a good situation.
100%. 100%. Well, it kind of taking that last point, going a little bit deeper and asking what additional benefits do you have? Now, I know that sounds like a very an entitled question, but it really isn't. So when we're talking about additional benefits, we're talking about is there a transaction coordinator? Is there somebody that runs out and puts the yards in the sign? Is there somebody that designs whatever open house flyer that you have? So what additional benefits do you get? And taking it one step further, most brokerages at this point have some additional revenue streams in partnerships with home warranties companies. So that happens all the time. You, of course, have to disclose everything that's outside of the actual real estate transaction. So your clients do know that you're getting some money, but there are those types of programs out there that per transaction, you could be making $100, $200, $300 additional just by the auxiliary things that you can add to it. So you're helping buyers buy, helping sellers sell, but there's also some auxiliary items that you can add on to the transaction to really maximize the sale. So those additional benefits. Have you heard of any other interesting ones, Joseph, around there?
I really have. I mean, I don't want to dive too deep into that stuff.
Okay.
But I think those are good questions to ask, right? Like, what else can we offer? Where else can I make money as a real estate agent within the brokerage, right? And so as you were talking about that, one point that I wanted to make sure that we discussed was, don't be afraid to ask these questions, because at the end of the day, the brokerage is not making you money. You're making the brokerage money, right? You are a self-contracted person working for the brokerage. So you have to think about yourself that way. If you think about yourself as your own business, making the brokerage money, the questions that should be asked are, what can you do for me? Not what can I do for you? So you need to make sure that you put yourself in that position, because the brokerage needs you to make money. You don't necessarily, and there are some great brokerages, I want to be very clear on that will help you and do great things. But you, at the end of the day, are the one who helps them keep their lights on. So make sure you understand that as you're choosing a brokerage, as you are a real estate agent. And please let us know, does this make sense to you as I make that statement, right? You are the moneymaker for the brokerage. The brokerage is not the moneymaker for you. It's not the other way. They have to have you to keep the lights on. You don't have to have them to keep the lights on. Does that make sense to everybody? You're in a position of power, essentially, right?
Absolutely. So we have a question here, or more of a comment. When you start, so this is from Jamal, and this is over on our YouTube.
Okay. When
you start, I say you need someone to teach you, hold your hand for your first 3 to 5 deals. You need real life education. And that's a mic drop if I've heard one. That is very valuable. So there's this There's this thought that real estate school is going to teach you everything, but it doesn't. It teaches you
Right.
how to pass the exam, and that's fantastic. You need that in order to, to get started. But at the end of the day, this real life experience, this real life, you going through the motions of how to show somebody a home. That's super important. What do you do after you get the contract executed? Well, do you send it to the title company? Any state is different, but who sends it to the title company? Where do I take this earnest money from? Do I pocket it? Like, there's all these questions. Obviously it's not that answer, but there's a lot of the things that you can talk about them all day long, but until you have that check in your hand with that earnest, what am I going to do with it? What happened? Do I need to receipt this? How do I document this? So yes, having somebody that you can lean on is super important. And that's one of the questions that you should be asking your broker. Who's going to help me do this?
Yeah.
Who's going to help me do this?
I think that's, and by the way, Jamal, great question, great statement. I think some of these brokerages, they do charge you after the transaction or with the transaction to have somebody coach you through that process. I will say this, the brokerages that I worked for whenever I first started, they had a brokerage hotline. And so they had, Timon, you can help me think of the term, what it's called. It's not like a co-broker, but they're like a associate broker, I think is what they're called.
Yeah.
And so the associate brokers actually had different times that they were on. So the associate brokers, because there were 100 plus real estate agents in that brokerage, they would be the ones answering questions. So I could call the broker hotline, and the broker hotline, and I could call, and I can remember my first transaction. I was like, I had no clue what was going on, to Jamal's point, right? Like, I could get leads, I could get people that wanted to buy a house. There was like, I could call people all day, but I didn't know what the contract was, had no idea. And for me, I didn't care about the contract. I cared about, I need to find people to help me make money. The contract will come. So that's another good question to ask is, who's going to help me? Is there a broker hotline? Is there somebody I can call, from, basically 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. because sometimes that's when deals happen, even later. Those are questions you need to ask. And is in those first 3 transactions, am I going to have to pay a transactional fee in order to have that person coach me, right? Because maybe you don't want to do that, maybe you do. It just depends on how much handholding you want, which was the point that we made earlier in the conversation, right?
Absolutely. And speaking about those transaction fees, and great point, Jamal, thank you. So he posted, most people think a broker will hand them business. I know that's right. I know that's right.
Where's that broker?
Let me sign up real quick. Let me sign up. I need that. Yeah. I need that. Well, kind of to that point, transitioning into the second point that we wanted to make is, well, how do you make more money regardless of where you go? How do you make more money? Either secure a lower cost per transaction, or how do you get a higher commission split? So the way that I break it down, Joseph, is before you add value and then after you add value. So at the risk of offending new agents, you have not added value yet. You are going through and selecting, doing your interviews as you should. You get courted. To your point, Joseph, a lot of people, you're the one that drives the business. So the brokers need to have you, and that's why they're trying so hard. That's why they pay for lunches. That's why they pay for to be in front of you. So it's very important. But before you add value, one of the best things that you can do is interview with a lot of people and just name drop. So the Market Center over on Preston, they gave me the same split. It could very well be the same brokerage, but you're bringing in different conversations. So the person that is either recruiting you, so the recruiter or the broker himself or herself, they know that, okay, we're not the only dog in this race. We're not the only pony in this race. So they have that awareness, because that conversation is going to go different versus, hey, I'm good. I'm ready to sign up. Just tell me where.
Yeah.
That's not that you're listing all your negotiations. So that would be the first point. Speak with as many people as you can and get as many details as possible, and then start name dropping amongst each other. Yeah, I was just talking to Susan over there, and they have an 85 split. You're offering me 80. I'm just having a hard time reconciling where that 5% is going based off of what you offered and what they're offering.
Yeah. Yeah, what can you show me, right? What can you show me? What can you do for me? One other point, Jaime, to that is you have to think about these brokerages and brokers. They're at the top of the top because they were good salespeople. So whenever they sit down with you and they get ready to have this conversation, you better believe they have their guns blazing, right? Like they know, boom, this is the term that's going to get this person locked in. Boom, this person has this question. Boom, I have a rebuttal to that. So for you, don't go into a meeting and think you need to sign a piece of paper saying I'm going to go to this brokerage, right? Like take a few days, take a little bit of time. I know you're going to have pressure from your family members and your spouse or your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever to sign, but don't sign until you feel very comfortable with the brokerage and you know everything you want to know about that brokerage, right? Which is really hard to say, and I totally understand that. But just remember, these people are salespeople, and they're damn good at it, and they make a lot of money, and they're bringing you in to be as good as they are. So just think about that entire process. They can bring you in anytime they want to if they're a really, really good salesperson. So don't fall for everything that you hear. And I think, Jaime, to your point, if somebody's offering you 85%, tell that brokerage, hey, look, I like it here, but you're offering me 70 and somebody else is offering me 85. Can you show me where that extra 15% that they're giving me versus what you're saying I'm gonna have to drop 15% for? Can you show me where that happens? And so let's say the 85% company is offering you, or brokerage is offering you, you know, very little training, but this brokerage is saying very little training and they only do 5 transactions per year on average per agent. Where this one is saying, hey, look, 70%, that's what you get. We do our agents average 30 deals a year. So that extra 15% doesn't even come close to how much money you could make working with us. So you just have to be smart about that decision.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you hit one super incredible point that just happened to me yesterday, or it reminded me about yesterday. They're good salesmen. They're good salesmen. And it got me thinking about an agent that I spoke with. We were working on something else on a side project. And she mentioned that she was getting 60-40. And you would think, okay, 60 for the agent and 40 for the broker. But no, it's 60 for the broker and 40. So it got me thinking about what an incredible salesperson that they got you to sign on the dotted line with that, because that is just absolutely wild. And what's even more wild was that you would think, okay, they're going to actually give you the business and close it for you, but it was far from it. So just let's have these open conversations. We don't want to get into splits. We're not gonna do that in this call.
There are about 50 posts on splits if you want to see some scary splits in the new real estate.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So what we wanted to do was just go behind the veil, share some personal experiences, and give you, the heads up, but leg up on how to actually go through and secure the best possible, not only commission splits, but also let's talk about fees. There's a lot of fees that come with real estate that a lot of people don't realize. They see, let's just call it 80-20 split, and then there's a $500 transaction fee on top of that. Well, it's not necessarily an 80-20 split. At that point, it comes to 76 or whatever the math is, 76-24. So be aware of those fees. And that's another way to instantly gain some more money in your pocket. Hey, I'm ready to sign now, but this onboarding fee, that's just not, I just don't have that in the budget. And regardless if you have it or not, it's not in your budget. So waiving as many fees as possible and either deferring them or doing away with them altogether, that's another way to increase the bottom line. And most people don't necessarily even think to ask about the additional fees, let alone ask for those to be waived.
Yeah. Well, so Jaime, to your point, there's a company that rhymes with Max, and you guys can probably figure out who that company is. They charge an additional 1% that they don't tell you about until you start doing deals. And you're like, oh, where did this 1% disappear to, right? Technology, whatever the case is, right? There are ways, and on top of that, there's another monthly fee. Anyway, anyway, you can all look that up. But my point was going to be, there are ways you can do things within your brokerage, which I think is going to lead to our next part of this segment right now, Jaime, and that's how to become the standout agent in your office. Yes. And so let's talk about, how we get rid of these fees. If you become really good at marketing, you become really good at maybe you do your sales calls really well, circle prospecting, newsletters. Maybe you're really good at creating marketing pieces. Those type of things you can do for your brokerage in order to cut your fees. So you start talking about, right? Let's go into the investing mindset. Investing, a lot of investors will say anywhere you can cut your cost, you're making more money. So let's say you earn 7%, but you cut your cost on other things by 10%. Technically, instead of trying to make more money investing, you cut your cost by 10%, you actually made more money. You made 3% on top. So point there is, if you say, hey, instead of paying these fees, I would like to do this work in order to cover my fees. And if I can do this work, will that work for you? So you immediately cut out all these extra fees by doing a little bit of extra work on your end. So again, maybe you're good at Canva and you can create marketing pieces. Maybe you're good at lead generation and you can teach a class on lead generation or teach a class on Canva. If your brokerage allows that type of stuff, and you can say, hey, can you cover my fees for 3 months or 4 months if I come in and teach this process? I'm really good at it. I can actually do a test class for you to show you how I do it. And that's actually something that I did in my previous brokerage. Was I would teach classes on marketing. We would have people come from other brokerages. They would use it as a recruiting tool to bring in other agents because I was so good at marketing that they wanted other people to come in and watch me. And we're talking, and I'm not talking about like, the bottom of the bottom. I'm talking like their top agents. They would invite top agents from other top brokerages to come over to watch me market. So my point to you is, as agents, new agents, learn a very, very in-demand skill, research what people want, which is typically lead generation. Yep. And you learn that, and then you teach it within the brokerage, you can cover your fees that way. And again, let us know in the comments if that makes sense, because that is one way to really cut your fees if you have like a company that charges a lot of fees. So Jaime, I don't know if you have a point to that.
That is 100% spot on. And really that goes into the second way that you negotiate. So that's when you've added value. So again, before you added value, everybody talks a big game. Everybody talks, you're going to be the rainmaker until you're not.
Yeah.
But when you become somebody that actually provides value, reminds me of a post that I made a couple of days ago. It was maker, taker, breaker. So you can be a maker where you make, you create, you're providing value, or you could take. So you consume, and don't even think about giving back. Or you could break. You're not making, you're not taking, you just decide to cast stones. So there's a lot of those people. But so you get to decide, are you going to be the maker? Are you going to be the taker? Are you going to be the breaker? But what Joseph is referencing here is becoming a maker. And what you're doing there is you're solidifying your position in that office and leveraging it for, there's going to be other brokerages that see you and see the value. I think I mentioned it on this podcast before. There's a brokerage. I'm hesitant to, I'm not going to say their name, but there's a brokerage that has technology champions or something technology ambassadors. I don't know what it's called, but different offices will reach out to me because they see the YouTube channel. It's like, hey, we'd like to have you and all this other stuff. And it makes sense because they see that there's, I'm making, if you will. So going back to a long way of saying, when you have provided value, you get to dictate the price. It just is that simple. So let's just take your example, Joseph. You go out to create a class on Canva or create a class on video making. It becomes wildly popular. People are coming in. It's being used as an attraction tool. Then you can sit down with the broker or the recruiter. Hey, this is fantastic, but 70-30 isn't going to work anymore. 80-20 is kind of where we need to be at. And I think I'm being fair.
Yeah.
So you added value in that regard. And you have another negotiation, piece that you can leverage.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, right? Like if you are helping the brokerage recruit people and they're bringing in, you see new faces every time you teach a class, you're like, and then they sign up and you're like, wait a minute, I just helped you bring in a person, and you can look up their numbers. I just helped you bring in a person that does 50 transactions a year, and you're helping me none, right? Like this relationship needs to change somewhere. And that's not to knock the brokerage or anything like that. Again, they're great salespeople. They run a business. They want their margins as best as they can have them. But you are a business in yourself, so you need to make sure that you're negotiating yourself to get the best deal that you can possibly get, right? Once again, as Jaime stated, once you give value to the company, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have a few comments, Joseph. I'll
Sure.
read through them. You need two skills as an agent, marketing and sales. Do you agree with that?
Um, well, I think there are many more skills that you need, but I think those are in the wheelhouse of things that you certainly need. Marketing, and what was the other one?
The
Sales.
marketing and sales.
Yeah, so those things marry to each other. I've always said this whenever I talk to other big companies. Your marketing and sales have to be able to talk to one another. Luckily in real estate and unluckily in real estate, you are the marketing and you are the sales. Beyond that, marketing, sales, follow up, right? Those things all have to work together. You can do the marketing, you can talk to people and try to close them, but then if you can't continue to follow up with people to continue trying to close them, or you can't continue doing more marketing as you're doing your sales, like all those things are like little sprockets, I think is the right term, maybe, that all work together. And if you think about a watch, if you've ever taken a watch apart, like if those things aren't continuously moving, that means something's broken, right? So to say that you only need two skills, I don't know if the person said only, but you definitely need more skills than that, right?
I
Negotiation.
added the only, Joseph. Sorry, I don't.
Oh, got it. So to that person's point, yes, those are certainly things that you have to have in your wheelhouse of tricks as a real estate professional.
Okay. Okay. So there's another comment, and let us comment down below. Whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube, questions, we love to field them, especially on Facebook, because I know there's comments. I just can't find them because of the
Yeah.
way that we're broadcasting. So just wherever you see a comment section, just comment, even if it's an emoji. I don't care at this point. I know their comments because I see them, or at least the notifications. I just can't for the life of me find them. So
Yeah.
just giving you the behind the scenes there. Joseph, most brokerages really don't have any differentiating factors. What say you?
I would disagree with that. I would disagree with that. I think there are a lot of brokerages that do have a lot of differentiating factors. What that tells me is that you're not doing enough research.
Mm.
And again, whoever said that, I'm not like getting in this conversation to battle you and fight you on whether who's wrong or right. I'm just saying you're not doing enough research, because there are vastly different things that are offered by brokerages. Like one brokerage might offer a company, and I don't like name dropping things, but one brokerage might offer Sync, which is a CRM system, which costs $1,500 a month, right? Another one might offer, I'm trying to pull something out of my head here. This is called another CRM system.
KV Core, transaction coordinator,
Yeah,
equity, revenue share, profit sharing.
so many different things, right? So to say they don't offer different things, I think is a somewhat false statement, because again, there are definitely different things that other like different brokerages offer. Some of them offer weekly, daily training, right? And some of them offer nothing. So that does differentiate these brokerages. So maybe they are similar, but there are things that definitely make a difference from brokerage to brokerage, right? And there's a reason why brokerage A has somebody or has their people do an average 30 deals a year versus brokerage B, and their brokerage, their agents only do 5 deals on average a year. So that tells you that there's a major difference, right?
I
So
agree.
I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
No, I agree. I agree. I think it's easy to see the 80-20. It's easy to see the what the financial model is, but that's a financial model. You need to dig in a little bit deeper, because some things either will save you money or save you time. Whatever's
Yeah.
being offered. Some brokerages offer a transaction coordinator for free because they
Yes.
have that volume. Some
Yeah.
brokerages will offer you a transaction coordinator, but at a discount. So $200 per transaction, whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. Now you have to take it upon yourself. Do I need this transaction coordinator? But also, how does that fit within the entire financial ecosystem, my future career, and really projecting out what it's going to look like in the future for you? So not only is it going to save you either money or time or both, but you need to be aware of what each broker brings to the table. So
Yeah.
we have a comment here, Joseph, unable to comment on Facebook, only YouTube. So I don't know what that we'll need to get Pat on that to be
Yeah.
candid. I don't know what that's about. So
Okay.
Josh, been there, 60-40, 40 for me. It's
That's
out there. It's out
all
there.
right. I'm going to make a blanket statement,
Please.
and I don't care what brokerage I piss off because they don't pay my bills, so it doesn't matter to me.
Make sure that we get canceled if it's going to be blanket.
And Pat, I do apologize in advance as well. But if you are making less than 70% at a brokerage, you're doing something wrong. I'm just telling you, in today's world, there's no way you should be making 70% of the income when you're doing 99% of the work. I'm just going to say that. If your brokerage is saying you're going to get 40% and you're the one showing houses, talking to leads, working the system, calling the leads, going to listing appointments, and you get 40%, I don't know who taught you how to do business, but you need to go to different business school. I don't know if you want to sit down and talk with Jaime and I won't charge you a penny, but you just need to do something different, because somebody charging you 60%, you're making 40% and you're doing all the work. I just don't know how that could even fly. I don't know. I just don't get it. Unless you're doing $100,000, $200,000 a year, making 40%, and you're happy with that number, please go on and do it. But you should not be making less than 70%. I don't care what brokerage you work with. That's my opinion. Again, it's a personal opinion. It's a blanket statement, but that's, again, confidence in myself. I would never take less than 70%. There's another number I would say, but that's because I know how to do certain things. So anyway, that's my blanket statement, Jaime. Again,
just as a reminder, Joseph Gonzalez's opinions are Joseph Gonzalez's opinions.
Right.
They don't speak for me. I'm kidding. I agree. And I would take it even one step further. And let's talk about caps, and then we'll finish up. Let's talk about caps for a quick second. I'm a fan of caps because I do think that they're just. I do think that there has to be an end, unless you're getting like 95 to 5% for the broker, then maybe caps. Depends on the volume, of course. At some point, it's a huge number. So there are some agents that are paying $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, and they see that as the cost of doing business when it doesn't need to be. Yeah. So when we're talking about caps, I do think that they're justified, because in order to get a cap, and let me backtrack. So let's just take an 80-20 split. For agents out there that are just hearing about caps, caps is basically there's a limit of money that you pay into the brokerage. So some companies have a $16,000 cap, some have a $24,000 cap, some have 28. It just varies across the board. So caps, I do think they are valuable and they need to be in place, because how you hit a cap is because you're out there proving it. You're out there doing the sale, so you're making so much money for the brokerage. So at a certain point, it's only, I feel, maybe I'm biased, but I feel it's only fair that you have a cap to where the rest of it is more for you. So you go to 100% commission or a very high percentage going to you, because you're actually taking less time away from the broker. You may not realize that, but obviously you're not a nuisance because you're making the broker so much money, but you're out there just getting business, and success brings success. So they're going to see a top producer agent with so many yard signs out there that agent's success is actually bringing you as a broker so many more agents. Yeah. So I do think caps are justified, and the lower they are, the better.
Yeah. Jaime, I feel like there should be a new term. It should be called ceiling instead of a cap, right? Like, okay.
I like that.
Because if you think about it, there's a ceiling, there's a level like that. And of course, cap makes sense because it's top of the head, but ceiling, everybody knows what a ceiling is. You hit a ceiling in your job, right? You're a school teacher, there's a ceiling. You're a principal, there's a ceiling, right? Like there's only so much money you can be made. So in this instance, there's only so much money the brokerage should be able to make. With that being said, and to your point, Jaime, there is a cap or ceiling that happens whenever the brokerage makes the amount of money that they want to make, and they have that number set. from you as an agent. The question then becomes, if I don't need the brokerage anymore, then what happens? Right. And I think that's what scares a lot of brokers, because they're like, I taught you how to do all this stuff. You're so great. You're a great agent because of me. I did this. I did X, Y, Z. It's like, yeah, you did that. And I appreciate it. I also paid you 20% for like 3 years. So what are you complaining about? I'm getting ready to leave to somebody who's going to pay me 100%. I don't need you anymore. Are you going to give me 95-5 split? Like, so again, going back to our previous conversation about this is where negotiations happen, because you're like, you're complaining that I gave you 20% for 3 years, and but you're also saying that you trained me, which is perfectly fine. Let's change that number from 80-20 to something else now, because I made you $70,000, $80,000, and yeah, you trained me, but you didn't train me $80,000 worth. Let's be honest, right? So if you want to renegotiate that conversation, again, we're talking about as an agent, you start hitting that trend of going up, and not the 87% of agents do this. That's whenever you should start having that conversation. If the broker is fighting you on that, that's a problem. That's a red flag in itself, because they're not willing to support you more to help you grow yourself, which will help them grow at the end of the day. Because if you start doing 50, 60, 100 transactions a year, and I've never done that, I just want to be very clear. I've helped other people do it, but you start doing that, that's when you start having that conversation about, hey, if you want me to keep working here, and you want me to keep being a self-contractor for your company, let's talk about how we can help each other out. Because 80-20 is not flying anymore in my book. Whenever somebody's offering me 100%, and I'm building my own business, my own book of business now, right?
Would you ever sign a contract, Joseph, with the brokerage?
What would the contract say? Like, lock me in for a certain amount of time?
Yeah.
No, never going to happen.
Okay.
Never going to happen, right? Like, the only way that would happen, of course, I'm in a different position than a lot of people, but
sure,
the only way that would happen is if, I don't even want to say this out loud. Let's just say no, Jaime, I would not sign a contract with a brokerage, because I'm a self-contractor. The contract means nothing to me, right? So how are you trying to lock me into something if I'm a self-contractor? Right. And that's, again, that's Joseph Gonzalez's opinion. Take that as you will, but there's no reason to sign a contract. That's like all these agents that want to sign contracts, or there's a company that rhymes with Willow that got rid of contracts because we as agents started complaining, like, you're signing me to a 12-month contract and you're not giving me the business you said you're going to give me, right? That's why they went away from that. So I see that as a trend in our business, saying, why are these contracts in place? They're not there to help me. They're there to help you lock me into a place that I don't need to be.
Yeah, no, I'm of the same opinion, and that just came to me. There were some comments down here that made me think about that. I personally would not sign a contract. I know it sounds juicy if they add a certain bonus, let's say 10,000, 13,000, 15, whatever the bonus is.
Yeah,
it gets me thinking. One, that doesn't happen in the industry all that much, but kind of what you're saying, if the trend is going this way and there's a lot of brokerages doing that, then there's a reason. Yes. There's something, there's these ties or these handcuffs that are being put in place. Now, yes, $15,000 today sounds fantastic when you haven't done anything.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, nobody makes it that juicy when it comes to joining a brokerage unless there's a reason. And that reason generally doesn't favor the agent. No,
they're getting their money back. Just know that. If it's $15,000, $20,000 they're giving you, there's an insurance company that does that. They rhyme with robbers. You can think of.
You're good at this, man. I need to get good at these rhyming things, because I try to name drop, but I can't even think of a rhymer.
But they give $24,000, and not to go on too much of a tangent, but they give $24,000 to their newly licensed insurance agents. That money is going to be paid back somehow, some way.
Yeah.
And you need to meet certain terms in order for you to get that money, and you have to sign a contract. So I guess at the end of the day, no. I mean, financially, it sounds so good, but if you can have the confidence and you can stick it out, and if you have to go live with family or do whatever you have to do as a new agent, and of course, not everybody's in the same situation, but don't take the money. whatever you can do, don't take the money, don't sign that contract, because you're technically living in debt to that contract and that money, right?
Yeah. And ran into this just yesterday again. It got me thinking about that, where there's an agent that signed a 3-year contract for $13,000 or so.
Wow.
She joined 4 months in. It was just not what she thought.
Yeah.
Well, don't ask me because I don't know where that $13,000 went, but she's not in a position to give it back.
Yeah.
So you just went into a really negative hole, and you're, regardless of what you do, you're in there for 3 years. You're just putting yourself in a worse spot. You're digging your own hole, if you will. But I just don't see a place where that actually makes sense.
Yeah. I'd like to make a statement too, Jaime. If you get presented with a contract, it is okay to go ask other people about the contract to see if it's okay, right? So, for example, the New Real Estate Agents Group, which a lot of you will probably be a part of. If you're not, you can message us to get the link. It's a free Facebook group. It's closed, but it's for real estate agents. And you can go in there and say, hey, I was presented a contract where it was 40-60. Is that okay? And get ready to be told, no, that's not okay, right? But it's okay for you to go ask those questions. Don't be afraid to ask a group of people that are in your profession if something's right. And I think that's a good place to be in the world today, is to be able to ask those type of questions. Also be ready to have some really terrible opinions from people. And not saying my opinion's the best. I'm just saying there are some terrible opinions out there. But be sure that you're asking questions to validate whether something's a good idea or not in our industry.
Absolutely. And I think I can, take pot shots at my own as well. So I'm getting ready to get on the hot seat as well. Since you already put us there, I'm sure that there's going to be some companies that are not going to sponsor us now. Thank you. But so calling out my own right back there, wherever that's at. So a lot of those brokers, there's a revenue share model. Just, I'm not going to go into the pitch because that's not what this is about. But when you ask for opinions and you hey, should I sign this check? Should I that? Be ready to have your email inbox just blow up.
Yeah.
Just
your Facebook inbox. Yeah.
There's going to be, hey, join me at the brokerage because X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 blah. It's just, I mean, I didn't join people that messaged me that. And still today, I have a very top, receiving a lot of money from revenue share agent that just messaged me this morning. I'll show it to you after the show. Yeah. Hey, I'll read it right now.
This is good for everybody to see because they can see like the cells, right, of what's happening behind the scenes, right?
Hey, Jaime, you probably get stuff incoming all of the time. It's only going to get more intense as your viewership increases. So leveraging my platform, right? Blank allows you to grow your agent base even wider and get paid on what you're already doing. Did you check out the explanation? So this person has been messaging me since a while now, but it just goes to show you it's not hidden. It's in my videos. It's in my bios. So the agents that are, going, just pushing, just really trying to recruit you, they don't care about you.
No.
There's my foot and mouth moment.
Yeah.
Most agents, let's just say that most agents don't care. It's still about you. The model has not changed. What value can you bring me? So ask those agents, what value are you going to bring me? I understand the financial model or whatever that you're telling me, but what value are you going to bring me? So that agent, clearly, I've been with this brokerage for a year now, clearly hasn't seen any of my videos, even though he said that he has and watches those religiously. It's kind of hard to miss that back there. Clearly hasn't gone to my channel. It's in my stories. It's everywhere. So just giving you the back end on how that works a lot of the time, that you're going to get flooded with all of these invites and the hot, sexy sells, but just do your research. I'm not saying you join that. I'm not saying you join in any brokerage. I'm just saying just make your own educated decision. For some agents, it's going to make sense to join one brokerage versus another. and then the other agent, this may be a better fit than the other. So there's no one way to do real estate, and we all know that.
Yeah, I think that goes back to some of our stuff that we talked about earlier. Is what is the brokerage going to do for you? Do they care about you? Right, like diving a little bit deeper on who you are and what's important to you. Are they a family centric place? Does that matter to you? Are they transaction based only? Does that matter to you? Like those are all questions that you have to ask yourself, and be true to who you are. If you know all you care about is money, maybe you go to a transaction based place, but maybe you care about, hey, yes, I do want to make money, but I also want my clients to know that I care about them. You go to a place that's very family centric, that has a high number or higher number of transactions per agent, right?
100%.
But you definitely want somebody who cares about you and your business at the end of the day. If like Jaime is saying, if the person is messaging you and you're already with the same brokerage, and they clearly can see the signs, and they keep messaging you, you're like, you have no idea who I am, what I do, what company I'm with. You don't care about me. All you care about is yourself. And that is not somebody you want to work with, right?
100%. 100%.
So Jaime,
Go ahead.
well, I was going to say, what are some tips you could give for, as we talk about agents and becoming the standout agent? What are things that, we've talked about some of these things in the past, and I think we made very clear points, but what are some things in addition to the things we've talked about in the past that would allow agents to become a sought after agent one, but top agent in their office, right?
Well, being very tactical, I would say explore YouTube. Explore YouTube because it is a great platform that not many real estate agents are doing. So just going into real, like a practical way, get into YouTube, start making videos, but also how you integrate your office with that or other agents and becoming more valuable to the brokerage. Involve other agents. Other agents, either by being in your videos or being in your posts, sharing their posts. Be active, because what everybody is going to see is that you are, let's say collabing with the top producer or an average producer. So most people get a little bit defensive. Well, this is my brand, this is my audience. Your audience, unless they're really diehard, most people are not going to care that you're with somebody else, and they're your audience for another reason. Think of it the other way. If I'm collabing with a top producer, their audience is being brought to me as well. So there's that synergy. So, bring value to the other agents, share other people's posts, share other people's comments, ask people to either collab with you on a blog, on a video, on something else. Just really be serviceful, and you're going to be surprised how much value each other brings to each other. I think that we're actually an example of this, Joseph. We've kind of talked about the origins. It's been about two months ago since we started this, and you have your audience, you have your tribe. I have my audience. I have my tribe. We're in similar circles. We're not in ideal, like we're not in direct competition. Even if we were, it wouldn't matter. But we came together. We've done this podcast, and it's just because I value you as a human. I'd like to think that you value me as in kind. So there's going to be some people that gravitate towards you and, absolutely follow you to the ends of the earth. There's going to be some that do that same thing for me. But at the end of the day, we came together to provide value to everybody else. And however the rest of it falls, is just going to fall. I kind of went on a real side tangent, Joseph. I don't think I even answered the question.
No, I think you did. Actually, you did answer the question. The question, right, is how can they add value and become a standout agent in their office? And I think the point there was being able to collab with other people, right, in your market and show value, whether it's another agent in your office and doing a video like this and talking to them about, hey, how did you get your commission structure so high, right? Like, why do you sell 1 acre properties instead of selling, new construction? Like doing those type of things and really learning about that, and then doing videos about them, right? You could sit down with every top earner in your office. Let's say you sit down with a 5, and Jaime, this is hitting on what you're saying, like collaborating with people and even taking the information, deriving the information for them, and then creating information about it, right? and we call that basically you're taking the information and you want to recreate what they're stating. So let's say you sit down with the 5 top performers in your office, 5 top agents, and one of them does 1 acre properties. Those are all 500,000 plus. One agent does only condos, and those are all downtown, and they're all 300 plus. One agent only does new construction, right? And they only go into the newly emerging markets. And then one agent only does first-time home buyers. You have 4 categories you can now talk about in detail because you learn from people who make a lot of money, that know this stuff, that do it every single day, and they are able to give you the right information, right? So that's a form of collaboration that allows you to go create content on that. The more content you create on this type of information that you're receiving, then allows you to become a creator, which Jaime talked about, a maker, and people who see makers, they want to be in contact with that person, right? So you will be able to then start marketing more 1 acre properties, the top condos, new construction, and the first-time home buyers, all by learning from other people. You emulated what they were doing, and now you're the maker of what they were doing, right? So you become that agent that everybody wants to be around.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Joseph, Pat is screaming in my ear. We got to get ready for the dismount. Any parting thoughts from your side?
Yeah, I think as we in this call, just remember you are the key to your success, and that sounds very corny to say, but you're the key to the person who's making the money because you run your own business as a real estate agent, and so make sure a brokerage is providing the things that you need as a human being, and as a business owner, so that you feel comfortable to move into a position to have success as an agent, right?
Awesome. So from my standpoint, it's basically the same thing that you said, Joseph. You are the you're the driver here, but at the same time, you're the one that needs to press the gas.
Yeah.
So yes, we we raised you up. Not literally, but we were we realized that you're the value, right? So the agents are the value, but at the same time, realize that there is going to be some work. Yes, it's about what can the brokers do for you, but at some point it stops, and at some point you need to drive. At some point you need to press the gas and actually get things done. So it's not, the failure is not going to be on the broker. They have an 80% failure rate regardless because of the agents that come through. So they're not going to be the broker. It's going to be you. So yes, you're going to vet, you're going to ask the right questions, you're going to be educated in where you're going to ultimately land for a little while or a long while. But at the end of the day, the person that's pressing the gas pedal is you. So realize that the broker didn't cause you to fail. At the end of the day, it's still on you. So the success is going to be there if you put in the effort and the work. And if you don't, then the opposite happens.
Yeah. Control your destiny.
I love it. All right, folks. Hey, well, thank you so much for joining us on our podcast. We're super excited. If there's any questions, please feel free to reach out to Joseph or myself. Everything will be linked down in the show notes. If you would like to join us on the group that we created specifically for this, the Agent Lead Source podcast group, it will be linked down below. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.